What I want to start with today is I want to check your multiplying out skills. Okay. Now, part of this topic in grade 11 is factorizing and things like that. But you always need to know that you can multiply out properly. So multiplying out is what we call maybe grade 9. People often call it FOIL. Can you FOIL out two brackets? But basically, this is an example of multiplying out with a single term and a binomial. So 2 times x would be 2x, and 2 times 1 would be 2. So that's multiplying out, or sometimes teachers will say expand, or sometimes teachers will say find the product. And then another type of thing that you would need to learn about in grade 9 and grade 10 is multiplying out something like this. Okay. And so x times x gives you x squared. X times 3 gives me 3x. 2 times x gives me 2x. And 2 times 3 gives me 6. And then you need to be able to recognize that these are like terms. And so this would simplify down to the trinomial x squared plus 5x plus 6 from multiplying out these. Give me a thumbs up if you feel kind of okay with this. Give me a thumbs down if you don't like this stuff. Give me a meh, I'm in the middle face, if that has been your experience of multiplying out algebraic terms. And please, let me see your emotions here through your emoticons. Okay, what am I seeing from the people of the room? Fantastic. Well, let us go and put your understanding to the test, because I do love a good multiple choice question. I mean, this, I'm a big fan. So you have to expand those terms and simplify for me, and then you need to vote. Maybe some of you will even be able to vote this year in the election. You must vote, but you must also vote at MathsLive. So you need to take a moment, think about this, and when you're comfortable, I want you to lock in your vote. Think about what we did before, and then see if you can choose which option you think is correct. So if you think about the skill that we started the lesson with, we know that we're going to have to multiply the 8 in, and we're also going to have to multiply the -3 in. So I want you to lock in your votes, and I want you to... So that would be my first line, but we still need to look for like terms, and the like terms will be 8x minus 6x, and then the other like terms would be 16 minus 15. And so I get 2x, 16 minus 15 is 1, so 2x plus 1. And so the correct answer is going to be D. Okay, and if I look at the chat, Aisha, Tenda, and Din, appreciate. Okay, wait, appreciate. I think maybe there was a typo, or do you get where the oh, I see what you did. You went 16 plus 15. So you just need to watch out for this -3 times +5 gives you -15. But all good. And then, yeah. Okay, well, I think we're okay there. So let's move on. So I want you, no, we don't have to do that one. Let's do one more expanding question, and then we're going to move on to factorizing skills. So if I said to you, I want you to multiply x squared plus 2x plus 4 times, in fact, let me move this to the side. So I want you to multiply this times this. So this is my made-up example. I want you to multiply this small bracket by this big bracket and then tell me what you end up with. Don't worry, Numfundo. I know that because of Eshcom and life gets complicated, but you made it, and we appreciate that. And we're still warming up today. We're still getting in the mood for maths. So I want you to multiply out, expand, and simplify would be the key word. So can you expand and simplify? And then once you've done, you can just say done in the chat. And then just while I see my classes, welcome to Aisha and welcome to Gemma and Numklamulo and Nulo and Numfundo and Manila, who's joining us now. And welcome to Sinako and Tanduayo and Manila. Welcome. It's good to have you in class. So what is a bit more tricky about this one is we call this a binomial. It's got two terms, and we call this a trinomial with three terms, and we're multiplying this. But you can start by just going, what is x times x squared? What is x times minus 2x? What is x times 4? So you start by doing that, and you should be getting an x cubed minus a 2x squared plus a 4x, but you're not done. You still have to do this multiplication, and then you have to give me a final answer. Now, when you're done, say done in the chat. So those are all my like terms. And now comes the business of simplifying and making life easier. Now I scan the horizon and I notice those two are opposites, so they cancel out, and those are opposites. So what is our final answer to be? It's going to be x cubed plus 8. So this whole big thing up here, I multiplied x plus 2, and I multiplied it by, should I choose a different color? I do like a bit of different color in my life. There we go. X squared minus 2x plus 4. So I multiplied the yellow one by the green one, and all I ended up with was this one. Give me a thumbs up if you could follow that. Give me a thumbs down if you didn't follow it. Okay. Now, what we say in mathematics is the process of going from here, from here and multiplying out gets me down here. That's called multiplying out. The process of factorizing is going the other direction, right? So expanding and simplifying is one process, or multiplying out. Factorizing is the opposite process, where we go from things that are added to things that are multiplied. Please repeat the part where you canceled, no problem. So appreciate what I did was I said I had a minus 2x squared here, and I had a plus 2x squared here. And the effect of having 2x squared minus 2x squared is nothing. So it's almost like those terms don't exist. And then the same thing is going to happen here. I have a 4x, and I take away 4x, and that's the same as 0. So the only things that really matter are the x cubed and the 8. Fantastic. Okay, now we've covered our basics about multiplying out and like terms. What we now need to do is some revision about factorizing. And when we factorize something, we take something which is written in plus or minus, and we write it as a multiplication. So here is a expression. It's got two terms, and we use the technique HCF, or highest common factor, to take out a common factor from the yellow bit. And the common factor that we spot is 3x. 3 is in the first term and the second term, and so is x. And then we say to ourselves, look, if we take 3x out of 9x squared, what do we need to multiply 3x by to get back to 9x squared? And the answer is we multiply 3x by 3x to get 9x squared. But then we have to ask ourselves the same thing over here. If we have 3x taken out, what must we multiply by to get back to this thing? And so 3 times minus 2 gives me minus 6. X times something gives me x, and then there's the y squared. This is called factorizing with the highest common factor. I'll make up another example here. If I said to you, take out the highest common factor for that expression, what is the highest common factor for that expression I just wrote in? Okay, so there's definitely going to be a 2, because 2 goes into 2 and 2 goes into 4, but there's also a. Now the question is, what goes in to the next bracket? So that if I multiplied it out, if I expanded it or took the product, I would get back to what I started with. Pop your answer in the chat there. It would be a, because that would give me my 2a squared, and then this would be minus 2. Okay, and that's an example of how we use the technique of HCF to factorize. This is normally the first technique you always try to do with expanding. So let's go to a multiple choice question. Nicely done, Mfundo. What is the highest common factor of the expression 15ab plus 20a squared? And is it A, B, C, or D? So which of the 4 options? Keep the answers coming. So if I look at 15 and 20, then I know the highest common factor there would be a 5, but I also have to look at the variables, and there's an A that's in common to both of these. So my answer would be C. So that's my answer. And so we have 5A, and I see lots of students agree with me, which is awesome. Okay, so we have 5A there. Now, let us move to the next technique. Now, the next technique that we often use for factorizing, so after HCF comes the technique, sometimes teachers call it dots, or difference of 2 squares. And what we need to do is we say, look, whenever we are factorizing like this, we're going to have 2 brackets. So first of all, we have to recognize, is there a square? So 16x squared is a square. And is there a minus? Yes. And then y squared is a square. And what we do is we write 2 brackets. And then we have we're going to have a minus and a plus. And we write down the square root of the first square. So the first square root there will be 4x and 4x. And then we say, what is the square root of the second square? In this case, it would be y. And we get that. And that's called difference of 2 squares. But to shorten it, we just call it dots. So we use dots to factorize that expression. Don't worry, Buchle, I'm glad that you could make it. I understand life gets busy. So let me make up an example. If I say to you, what is 9x squared minus 16? Could you factorize that for me? Could you factorize that for me? Just say done when you're done, and then say when I know. Yeah, so one must have a plus sign and one must have a negative sign. So when we write this out, I write out like that. And I always put the minus sign first because sometimes this can be broken down even further. Then I say, what's the square root of 9x squared? Well, it's going to be, let me choose a different color. So 3x and 3x. Because 3x times 3x gives me 9x squared. And then I say, what's the square root of 16? It's just going to be 4. So I go minus 4 plus 4. And then I get that. Now, you can get more exciting difference between two squares, but that's the basic idea. Maybe I should make up one more exciting one for you, just because we can. And then we'll move on to trinomials. So what if I said to you, can you factorize 4a squared b squared minus 16x squared y squared? Now, take a moment to think about how you would do that, if you could factorize it, and then say done in the chat. Or if you want to have a question with me, just pop your hand up and we can talk through it, or you can make a comment in the chat and I'll respond to that. So Nicole, one must have a plus sign and one must have a negative. Yes, exactly. Difference of two squares always need to have opposite signs. So just let me know if you've got that now. So we're trying to factorize this rather interesting looking, and it is a difference of two squares because I made it up on the spot. Now, what do we think goes where? Well, we know there will be a minus and a plus. So what else? Okay, so here we are going to have 2ab and 2ab. And then over here, we are going to have 4xy, 4xy. All right, now I want to hear how you're feeling. I think we can move on to trinomial factorization, but I don't know for sure. So thumbs up if you're following, thumbs down if you're not. Middle face, the face that just looks in the middle if you're feeling okay. Let me see the emoticons fly, or the hands signals fly. Okay, so after we, in fact, deal with, let me go to a different example. After we deal with, let's have a look at that. So our methods for factorizing are, the first thing we always look for is the highest common factor. Then we look for the difference of two squares. Then we look to factorize something using the trinomial methods. And I'm going to try and factorize this trinomial over here. Now, there are many different methods for factorizing trinomials. And later on, when you learn about the quadratic formula, in some cases, you can often sidestep factorizing trinomials, but I think it's an important skill to get. Now, one of the most important things when you first start factorizing trinomials is there's a big difference between a trinomial when there's a 1 in front or when there is a bigger number. So, okay, all of these have, we say, a coefficient of 1. And that makes life a bit simpler. Now, I'm going to show you the method I use, and you can tell me if you do something the same or different. So I like to do this. I draw two lines that look like this. And what these lines represent are the cross multiplications when we have two brackets that are together like this. You know, like when we always go like this one times this one, or actually not even that, like we go like this one times that one, and this one times that one. This does that for me, but in a special way. And what I do is I start by drawing a line here, and I look at the number in front of the middle term. Here it's -1. And so I put a -1 there. Then what I do is I look at the number in front of the x squared, and I say, what numbers multiply together to give me 1? And the good news is I can only have 1 and 1 multiplied together to give me 1. Okay, now, the last thing that I have to spend some quality time with is this 30 at the end here. And you don't worry about the negative. You only worry about what two numbers multiply together to give me 30. Tell me in the chat, which two numbers multiply together to give me 30? So 5 and 6 is one possibility. Or I think most of you are going for 5 and 6, and that's a good choice. The other choice would be 10 and 3 or 2 and 15. Now, because when we do this, we want to get to -1, it makes sense to choose 5 and 6. And I'll explain why now. Okay, so the way this method works is you go, I need to end up with -1. So it ends up being more negative at the end. I multiply along these diagonal lines, and I'm going to make this a negative. I'm going to put a positive sign in front of my +5. Now, what happens is when I go 1 times -6, I get -6. When I go 1 times +5, I get +5. And now all I need to do is check is what do I get when I go +5 -6? And hopefully I end up with -1. And then my trinomial is balanced. So now this allows me to write it out. I'm going to write out my answer. And my answer is just going to be, let me write it below this. So I go, there's 1x. So I go 1x or x +5, which is for this top line. And then I go x -6. And that is a trinomial, that is factorized. If you notice, if I had to multiply this out, x times x gives me x squared, or 1 times 1 gives me x squared. And then the -6x is this diagonal, the +5x is that diagonal, and the 5 times -6 is -30. Now, not all of you would have learned that method, so I might have given you a bit of a fight now. But let me know in the chat if you could follow that. Give me an unhappy face if you didn't follow it. And maybe you did it differently. Okay, so I want to know in the chat, happy face if you followed me, unhappy face if you feel very lost now, and a middle face, or if you have your own method and you got the same answer, just say same. Okay. Now, before we take our break, we are going to try and do another one just like this one that I did now. So we are going to try and factorize this one over here. And I would love a student who maybe feels a bit more comfortable with trinomials to maybe talk me through this. So maybe where should I start? What should I start by doing? Just tell me, maybe someone can put their hands up and say, I'm going to start trying to factorize x squared plus 9x plus 20. What should I start by doing? Share the love, share the insight. Open two brackets. Naledi, you are winning at life. So we open two brackets, yes, because we know we have to fill them out. Who else can help us out? What's maybe the next step? Indin, let's go to you. I'm going to unmute Indin, and then you can give us a bit of a tip. Say sharing is caring, hey? There's no I in team.
Morning, sir.
Hey, what would you do next?
Okay, I would put X in both of the brackets.
Okay,
Then I would
perfect.
go plus 5. The first one, I'll go plus 5.
Plus 5.
The
Okay,
next one, I'll go plus 4.
plus 4. Okay, so did you just do it in your head by inspection?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Okay, that's great. That was brilliant. Okay, now just to show you that sometimes you can just do them by seeing what fits. If I used the method that I was talking about, I would have done this. I would have drawn a line and I would have said, I need to end up with plus 9. So that's that bit there. Okay. Now, what I would say is, what is the number in front of x squared? It's just going to be 1. And I say, what gives me 1 if I multiply it together? It can only be 1 and 1. Now, I have to fill these boxes out. I need to put numbers, but the numbers need to multiply together to give me 20. And my choice is then, what numbers multiply together to give me 20? It's going to be 10 and 2, or it could be 5 and 4. Now, what option now? Because Indeed helped us out, we kind of know that 5 and 4 would work here. But what do the signs need to be so that 1 times something 4 and 1 times something 5 give us plus 9? Well, they have to be a plus and a plus. And sometimes I do a bit of extra working where I say 1 times plus 4 is plus 4, 1 times plus 5 is plus 5. And now we can read off. We read off horizontally and we go, it's going to be x plus 5, which is this top line, and then x plus 4. Okay, I know I said I'd give you a break, but I just want to finish. I want to do one more like this. Can we all try and do x squared plus 13x plus 42? And you can either do it by inspection or you can use my method that I was showing there. And we're going to take a break. All right. So, Sinako, do you want to give us a tip? What did you do to get crack-a-lacking? I think the 42 is the part that is probably the most difficult. But yeah, like what factors from 42 could be helpful?
Oh, 7 and 6 we need.
7 and 6. Yep, there we go. Thank you for that
Yes,
help.
sir. Sir.
The team is getting moving. I can feel it. So plus 13 for this, 1 and 1 for that, and then we can say 6 and 7, and we're going to say plus and plus. And then what's going to happen is we are going to go read off. So it's going to be x plus 6 times x plus 7. Here we go. Fantastic. All right, everyone, we've done really good. I think it's time for us to take a break. We need to make sure that our brains give us a full hour's worth of concentration, but we need to do some maintenance. So what we're going to do is you're going to turn your cameras on and you're going to stand up with me, and I'm going to stand up as well. And we are going to do a bit of a break, a brain break, I call it, so that our brains keep on serving us in the second half. So stand up. I want you to turn your cameras on. I want to see the people of my room everywhere on my screen. And I want to see you stretching out. So I want you to stretch up. Take a nice deep breath as you stretch. And breathe in. Really take nice deep breaths. It feels so nice. Breathe in. I can feel my brain feeling happy already. Okay, let's get some circulation. So I want you to shake your arms. Shake this arm. Shake your legs. You really want to feel loose, nice and relaxed. Okay? And then what I want you to do is put your arms out and just lightly rotate from side to side. And as you relax, you'll see you naturally go further. Yo, I feel my concentration is being restored. It's like magic. Okay. Then the last little bit of the break is to get our blood pumping through our bodies and get all that stiffness or shoulder scrunching gone. And I love the jumping jack because it's so intense. This is a jumping jack. We're going to do 15. Okay. 3, 2, 1. I want to see people jumping. I want to see people panting for breath. Let's get going. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 5 more, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oh my goodness. Now my heart rate is pumping. But my brain has said, you can have a break, and I've listened. Okay. Can you solve this puzzle? Can you solve this puzzle? And then we're going to go back to what we were doing. Okay, let's have a look. The lady all over it. Yes. 5, 5, 5 for the kitty cat. This looks like, I don't know what this is. What sort of thing is this? I don't know. That's a bird. Maybe that's like a cat or a skunk, or I don't know. What does a bird have to be? Bird has to be 15. Yep. Appreciate that is on it. Now, what is this interesting? What is this, a fox? Maybe it's a fox. We don't have foxes in South Africa, I don't think. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe not in Cape Town, but we have caracals. What is this going to be? So Sinako has said 45. You're on the right track, but you have something, you take away 15 and get 40. So then I think something minus 15, or I could do this. I could add 15 to both sides. And then if I add 15, it's almost like I've moved the bird across. So I get for this must be 55 is what this must be. And then what's the last thing going to be? It's going to be 55 plus 5. So what is the final value going to be? So the bird has to be 15. So what is my final answer going to be? 5 plus 55 is 60, plus 15 is 75. Well done, everyone. Well done. Okay, let us return to what we were doing. I really enjoyed the brain break. I hope you did too. Let me know in the chat how you're feeling. Do you feel energized, like the brain break did its job? Or do you feel a little bit, yeah, let me know in the chat how you're feeling. Okay, let me come back to that one, that multiple choice question. Okay, now we're going to learn to factorize trinomials where it's no longer a 1 in front. You'll notice here, the number in front is bigger than 1. And this is where the method I was showing you is so helpful. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 1 for you. And then I want you to try and do H after that. But let's just watch the method I use for G. So what I do is I draw this cross thing. And what the cross thing does is this direction does something, this direction does something, and then obviously along there does something, along there does something, and then there's this balancing thing at the bottom, which helps me. Now, it feels like a lot's going on, but it's not so bad if you just do it slowly and deliberately. So I start by doing that because I always do that. And then I write down the middle term, which is -7. There's no doubt when the moment it's written in standard form, I can write down the middle term. And I call this the balancing term because it balances everything, right? Balancing term. Then I look at the number in front. And if it's a prime number, I do a little happy dance inside. And the reason I do a little happy dance inside is prime numbers only have two factors. So the only way this could work is if I have a 3 and 1 here. The only numbers that give me 3 when I multiply them is 3 and 1. Give me a thumbs up if you followed that so far. Give me a thumbs down if you haven't followed that. Okay, now, then I've dealt with this bit, I've dealt with this bit. Now all my attention has to go to the 6. And you ignore whether it's positive or negative here. You just worry about what is the number that's here. Because the positives and negatives you decide later on. So now I need 2 numbers to go in here. And these numbers, when I multiply them, must give me 6. So I'm either going to choose 3 and 2, or I could do it the other way around. I could say 2 and 3, or I could have 6 and 1, or I could have 1 and 6. So we have a couple of options here, but we know that when we multiply along and we get values, these two values need to add to the -7. So I don't know the answer, but I'm going to try it out in front of you. If I make this 6 and this 1, 3 times 6 is going to get way too big. So that's never going to work. If I do this over here and this over here, well, that gives me a 6, that gives me a 3. That can never get me to -7. So that's not going to be very helpful. So I'm going to move to my other option, which was a 2 and a 3. 3 times 3 is a 9. 1 times 2 is 2. 9 and 2 can get you to 7. But I need negative. So I put a negative here. 3 times -3 is -9. 1 times +2 is +2. And now I check. Is +2 minus 9 minus 7? Yes. So I do a little happy dance inside. I'm feeling good. But I still got to write it down. So how do I write this down? I write it down horizontally into 2 brackets. And I attach the variables to the side. So I go 3x plus 2, x minus 3. And you'll notice if I multiply this out, it's almost like I'm doing the same thing here. So look at this. 3x times x is just this bit here. Then 3x times -3 is just this bit here. And you can see how this process is just mimicking the working out that I've already done. So give me a happy face if you followed that. Give me an unhappy face if you didn't follow it. Okay, then I want everybody to try and do h. I want you to try and factorize h. And I want you to start, as you are super ninja at trinomials, I want you to start by doing this. If you are very confident and you've learned something in class and it works for you, you can stick with it. But for those who have never enjoyed trinomials, I promise you, I can make it better for you. If you trust me and learn this method, things will go well for you. And when you're done, just say done in the chat. Okay, so what I've had to do is I've had to say 2 times minus 5 is minus 10, 1 times minus 1 is minus 1, and the minus 1 and the minus 10, they are balancing to that. But I still have to write it out. So what is that written out as? Well, I know I'm going to have 2 brackets, and then I'm going to have 2x minus 1, and I'm going to have x minus 5. Okay. So can you see how it's getting easier each one we do? Take a screenshot now if you want to record this, or you can always look at the recording, but I'm going to go back up to that multiple choice question I dodged earlier on. Okay, so, oh, that's a bit, let me zoom in rather. Can you guys, it's a little bit vague, eh? Okay, I want to know, this says, in case you can't see, it says factorize 3x squared plus 10x minus 8. And you need to choose between these 4 options, A, B, C, and D. Option A is 3x minus 2x plus 4. Option B is 3x plus 2x minus 4. Option C is 3x minus 4 x plus 2. And D is this. I want you to choose what you think is the correct one. What is the correct one? You can lock your votes in the chat. I want to see those votes in the chat once you are done. Oh, I must be careful here. So that's 6, but that can't work. 2 and 4. What about 8 and 1? Ooh, this doesn't seem to work. Unless I'm going. So 8 and 1 and 4 and 2. But they have to be opposite signs. Ooh. So that would be like that. This was a sneaky one. So the reason I'm doing this is, okay, let me show you what I would do. I would say that must be a plus, and I get plus 12. And then 1 times 2, that must be a minus. Now, let's have a look at why and how that works. 3 times 4 is plus 12. And 1 times minus 2 is minus 2. Now, minus 2 plus 12 does indeed give us 10, which is good. But now, I was a bit tempted earlier on to go 1 times 4 and 3 times 2, which the reason it wouldn't work is when I go minus 2 times plus 4, I get minus 8, which is great. But if I hadn't had pluses and minuses, I wouldn't have got minus 8 there. So my answer would be 3x minus 2, x plus 4. And that would be that one over there. But that was a sneaky example. And so I am seeing A's in the chat. But if it confused you, it almost caught me as well. But that's a good place to stop for today.